Okay, are we live? Oh wait, are we live right now? Let's see. Okay. Welcome. Oh wait. Welcome to International Workers Movement Podcast, episode 1 on KRT Media Network. I'm your host, the Falcon General, and my guest here today is Nathan Kline from the Green Party of Kansas City.
Hello. Thank you for welcome for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So today we're going to be talking about the workers' movement around the world and mostly in the United States as well. So, did you hear, Nathan? Did you hear about the India strikes where 250 million people went on strike?
Oh yeah, been paying close attention to it. That's a very exciting development. The Green Party is obviously stands with those workers, trying to make sure that they can, you know, maintain a livelihood, and they're mostly just self-sustaining farm families, and the government is making it literally impossible for them to stay alive.
Yeah. As well as with it kind of literally reminds me of how in the United States with the Western left, like in the United States left, where we can't even organize, like we get into fights over like the lowest of things over anything and have a hard time trying to appeal to people and organize things. So what would your advice be for organizing workers to get ready to do strikes or protests?
Well, number one, us leftists in the United States need to not get down on ourselves so much. We have really one of the hardest, countries in the world to organize, and there's multiple reasons for that. Number one, we have a very anti-democratic political system, right? That freezes out any kind of political movement from the left at all. The Democrats and the Republicans, neither of those parties are leftist parties.
Yeah.
It's been at least 50 years since you could call the Democratic Party any kind of leftist party.
Yeah.
And the Green Party has been the only significant, leftist party in the intervening years. I mean, there's been other smaller leftist parties, but the Green Party, regularly has ballot access in most areas of the country. And, here in Missouri, we, recently just lost our ballot access, but we are right back in the streets petitioning to regain our ballot access, and we will regain it. We've lost it twice before in Missouri. We will regain it again. And,
Yeah.
that we have to understand that the Green Party is an international party. And
Yeah.
that's very important because our problems are international, right? We're not going to
Yeah.
solve them inside national borders. And
Uh-huh.
so that's very important that we understand. And that's an old socialist tradition, an old workers, cross border. We see that our other workers across borders as our brothers and sisters.
As well as I want to also talk about this when it comes to internationally, where literally with these workers movements, for example, they sometimes literally the government doesn't do any. It's because things like the government not wanting to actually cave into their demands, so they have to force it. So by having to force it, they had to actually shut down stuff, try to make an impact. But for example, I remember in Hong Kong where the protesters, they didn't do really anything to really get any real demands or anything like that. They just only did stuff on the weekends and just only did it as a trend. But as well as for example, where in India, they shut down kind of the city of New Delhi, really. They shut down, they just did a real general strike. And it sucks, how, oh, you have people on Twitter or online saying, hashtag general strike and it was trending on Twitter, but no, are you going to do it? Or are you going to actually organize and stuff like that as well? And I also wanted to get your thoughts on the worker strike that happened in New York.
Well, I mean, I think that you're absolutely correct. I think that we have to
Hmm.
have like a two-pronged strategy. We do have
Hmm.
to have, street action. We do have to be seen in the streets, and our demands have to be well understood. And
Hmm.
we have to be, uh, you know, uh, willing to be arrested. We need to be able to be willing to shut it down,
Hmm.
because we're talking about life and death issues, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and the government's not responding to us. The government is well established,
Yeah.
not respond to us. They have the Democrats and Republicans in this country have constituents, and they are their wealthy campaign contributors. If you are not a wealthy campaign contributor, then you are not a constituent of one of those parties, and
Yeah.
they can ignore you and will ignore you, no matter what you do. Um,
Yeah.
so we also have to have a way to take power, for the workers to take power,
Hmm.
and that's the other side of a two-pronged strategy. Yes, we have to demand and our rights and what we need in the public square, but we also have to have a party that's not for sale, that will not take the wealthy campaign contributors' dollars, that is made up of workers, that is made up of volunteers, right? That's the Green Party, and that's been the Green Party way the whole way. And so we have to be in the streets, and we have to have workers that we can vote for at the ballot box. People like you and me that
Hmm.
run as Greens, and the thing is we have to be patient, because the system is set up to exclude us.
Yeah.
Okay, and the American people have largely fallen for a lot of BS arguments about the lesser of two evils and junk like that, and
Yeah.
also have largely just given up on politics as not having anything to do with their lives. Right? Most Americans don't end up voting most of the time, and
Yeah.
I think that's correct. They understand that it won't make a difference in their lives voting between
Hmm.
Democrats and Republicans. That's why we have to give our neighbors, our workers, our brothers and sisters that option, and that's what we're out here doing.
Yeah. So I also had to ask this. How could any like how can any yeah how can organizations like your party and others appeal to workers and get them on your side?
Well, one thing we have to do is actually advocate for the policies that will make a big difference in their lives. And the Green Party does that. We have to understand that the biggest pot of money in the history of the world is the U.S. tax base, and we have to understand that the rich aren't paying their fair share into that. Right? Many of them are paying no money at all, and many
Hmm.
of them are actually subsidizing, right, through the tax
Yeah.
code. So that's our money. We are putting together, the workers of the United States of America, putting together the biggest pot of money in the world. Now, it's not going to work for us primarily, right? It's mostly going to work for the very wealthy, right? For wars, and for subsidizing their activities and things like that. But it's not going for our healthcare. It's not going for our education. It's not going for the critical infrastructure of our communities, right? It's not going to make sure that we have uh, good work, right? I mean, we should have a work guarantee. So we have to have the policies, number one, the Green Party has those. We also have to prove to our neighbors that we're in it for the long run, right? That
Yeah.
if they see you coming and going, first time they see you, they're going to be like, oh, that's a flash in the pan. But if they see us keep coming and keep challenging the establishment, which we've been doing for decades now. I've been
Yeah.
involved in Green Party politics since 1990s, and it's a hard road, right? But just because it's hard, that doesn't mean it can't be done, and it doesn't mean
Yeah.
it shouldn't be done, right? When going gets tough, the Greens stand up and can't be put down, and that's what we've proven, and we're still in the fight, and we ain't going anywhere. We got brothers and sisters all over the world, and the Greens are doing great. Greens are in over 100 countries of this world, right? And we
Yeah.
share common values, and we share an international solidarity that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. It reminds me of like how people just go like, "Oh, this is like too hard. This is very difficult." But people need to be patient.
Mhm.
When literally just because it's difficult and just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not going to be accomplished. It means you can accomplish them. It just means you have to be patient and you have to do more. You have to work harder and harder to get this one goal done from goal A, from basically point A to B. And that's what people need to realize as well. And really, it reminds me of how, like how people like who just basically say that they're going, like, just basically give out these promises and don't actually fulfill them. Like, for example, like, you know how, like, the squad was promising how they were supposed to, that they were going to help us get a vote on Medicare for all. And they really didn't do it. They didn't really push Nancy Pelosi to cave into the demands. Like, literally, I remember other parties like the Green Party and the MPP, which they're getting registered and all this other stuff, were pushing for us to vote, and as well as like others that also endorse the Green Party were pushing for us to vote to basically go like, hello, how about get something, get like some concessions out of this party to basically get something done, get something that's going to improve our livelihoods, get something that's going to improve our lives. And because like they didn't do that, they just bucked and like just basically caved in to the establishment in general.
Yeah.
So, what do you recommend when it comes to trying to how oh what do you recommend for people when it comes to trying to organize a protest to try to get your to try to get basically like the local government to cave into our demands?
Well, again, number one,
Yeah.
I want to say that your analysis on the ineffectiveness of the so-called few progressive Democrats to do anything or fight for anything, you've seen that for a long time. I think you're
Yeah.
spot on. I just
Hmm.
want to point that out. Only about 1 out of 100 elected Democrats in the country and in the House and Senate are remotely progressive. Okay, they're unicorns that freakily get and they're powerless and they don't dig in and they don't fight. They do form a very important use though for the establishment, which is to give the majority of Americans who want the things that the progressives are talking about, right? Green New Deal, job guarantees, healthcare, et cetera. They
Hmm.
they give us the misunderstanding that one of these two parties has something to do with any of those things. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's a misunderstanding if you think of one of those corporate parties is ever going to give you those things. But they give people the misunderstanding that that is the case.
Yeah.
So but going back to your question about how how do we pressure these people? Basically, it's how do we get out there and pressure these people to do the right thing? Number one, I don't think they're pressurable. I don't think that we can pressure them. Like, okay, I think that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Okay,
Yeah.
and 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 that's to build the movement and the understanding, and so that we see each other out in the street. We go, hey, everybody's sitting back at their own house, right? And they're going, I wish I had health care. I wish I had education benefits. I wish I had a job guarantee, et cetera, right? I wish that we could end the forever wars. I wish that we could do something about climate change, right?
Yeah.
And but you're all by yourself. You got to get out on the street and you got to find solidarity with your brothers and sisters. Okay, so
Yeah.
number one, that's the number one thing. Don't I think we have to disabuse ourselves of the belief that going out in the street and throwing rocks at power, the primary use of that is not actually to get the powerful to do anything because they won't. Like I said, we are not their constituents. We're just not their constituents. They're are the wealthy campaign contributors, and they're locked in the golden cage the only things they can do is what those wealthy campaign contributors will allow them to do, which is the things that make them the most money in the shortest amount of time. Okay, which is
Yeah.
none of the things that we need match that goal. Okay, so they're not
Yeah.
pressurable. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be out there pressuring, but we also have to have, like I said, that electoral arm. Because if we
Yeah.
don't have the electoral arm, if we don't have a non-violent way to change the system, and we're seeing this happen, right? We're
Yeah.
seeing it happen, that people will get so frustrated that they will result to violence. Okay. Now, the Green Party, one of our core values is nonviolence, because we
Yeah.
do believe that if we dissolve to violence and we devolve to violence to get what we need, that it's going to be a disaster for all of us, right? You know, the the wealthy have a lot of violent resources. They have more violence than we have. Okay,
Yeah. They
and,
can like, oh, sorry. You
go
want me
ahead.
to let you finish? It's basically like this. The state can actually mandate violence. They can basically just literally the state can allow violence to happen. Like for example, what they did to Breonna Taylor, where they did state mandated violence against her, and but got her killed, got her boyfriend arrested. Yeah.
Well, you see what they do with the
Mhm.
Black Lives Matter protests. Obviously, they don't react the same way to rightists in the
Yeah.
street. When the rightists like literally tear up the Capitol building.
Yeah.
If it was us leftists that had broken into the Capitol building, there's not a gun in Washington that wouldn't have been empty of bullets. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Like,
we know us leftists that the violence is meant for us. Okay, because we're the only challenge to the status quo, right?
yeah.
The right is not a challenge to the status quo. I mean, I think that our brothers and sisters on the right, and we have to understand that they are our neighbors. They're our brothers and sisters. Now,
Mhm.
we don't agree with them on a lot of things, but they are suffering as well from this economy.
Mhm.
Okay, and they have our brothers and sisters on the right. They have a tendency that, through their heritage, to believe racist explanations for why things are the way they are, right?
Yeah.
And they fall for junk like that. And we just have to have a better analysis, which we do, and we need to get it out there. And we need to not be hateful to them. We need to lead with love. That
Yeah.
is hard, right? And Martin Luther
Mhm.
King, this is the harder way to go, but we have to be stronger than that. We have to see the long, like I said, be patient and see the long game, right? And not just go, these these fascists we need to just attack them. We need to kill them. You know, that
Yeah.
that feeds into their narrative about the way the world works.
Yeah. For example, like when it comes to this, like one, like I think like as well as this, like when it comes to organizing, you can also like reach out to people who are even in the different side of the political spectrum. Like, for example, I can go to West Virginia, which is the state I'm currently based in, and I can basically get my Trump supporting neighbors to maybe come and join this protest to actually have a demand for our local government or county government to get some relief to us. Like, let's say get like let's say for something like how about like all these roads being blocked by snow or all this other stuff, like how about get some like things to actually clean up our roads so we can actually be able to get through and get to our jobs that we need to basically help us get to our jobs quicker and not be late and have people unemployed and actually try and also maybe to actually get some like UBI as well. And like as well as this, like when it comes to the Capitol protests, like if like those people were like leftists. I remember my friend Hakeem, who's like an Iraqi, who talked about the protests happening in Iraq, where he talked about how compare to what's happening in Iraq, what was happening to January 6th on that day. He was basically saying it was kind of a meme to him, like of what happened on that day, because in his country, basically, like protesters will come in, and the police officers will come in to basically shoot the crowd to disperse them, crack a couple of skulls, and hand out some heavy token sentences to basically just stop the protesters in general. And literally it happened. It's crazy how like all this also happens. And he was talking about like if this was a bunch of leftists and coming in there, or just like a bunch of Black Lives Matter protesters, there would have been blood. There would have been more blood than what just happened during there. As well as next, like how now the government's trying to do like a Patriot Act 2.0, where like now we're going to get spied on. Like we don't want to be spied on, like we are to this day. Like this is being like right now, like what Edward Snowden did. Like he already knows that, like the government already knows we're even like doing this in the first place because they listen to everything we do. Crazy. So for as well as like this, what do you recommend? What do you recommend when it comes to trying to basically get like trying to what was the word for it? Trying to get literally people from opposing sides from the political spectrum out to join your movement.
Well, I agree that that is crucial because they're workers
Yeah.
also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and when I'm out campaigning as a Green Party candidate, and I bump into folks that are more sympathetic to the right, right?
Yeah.
Most people just kind of grow up in that milieu, okay? But one
Mhm.
thing that you find out very quickly is they're very skeptical of large corporate power. They
Yeah.
also have bosses that have too
Mhm.
much power over them in their workplace, right? They
Mhm.
also, don't get paid enough money for how hard they work. They work in dangerous workplaces, all of these things, right? And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of sympathy there that's real easy. They also don't like, they also believe in democracy, right? Because they don't believe that the wealthy should have a lot more say in the way our society is run than working people. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we approach them like that, and then I think that we can come to we have to talk about the things that we agree about, right? And then we
Yeah.
have to be able to be patient with each other, be forgiving of each other of the dumb things that some of our neighbors believe, right? And I
Mhm.
ask them to be patient with me, right? And let's talk about the things we agree on, and that is we agree on more than we disagree on, you know.
Yeah.
And when we come at it like that, and often I'll say, all right, brother or sister, let's talk. Let's not get mad at each other. Let's come from the point of view that I'm probably not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind, but let's just try to hear each other. Let's try to
Yeah.
learn from each other, maybe. And
Mhm.
if we walk away from each other and we don't completely agree with each other, that's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
we have to be patient and forgiving. When you actually talk face to face with people, it's not like online, okay? And that's why we have to get out of the online bubble.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's hard right now under COVID, right? And it's another thing that's inhibiting us right now, because when we get out there and we talk face to face with people, people are generally find that we're really have a lot more in common than we do. And so I encourage everyone to, especially when the pandemic uh, we get more folks inoculated and becomes more safe, we get out in public and we talk. We also need to talk outside of our own, like, kind of leftist circles. Now, it's good to have fellowship. It's good to be able to talk with folks that you can be very open with and agree with you mostly, but we also have to get out and we got to go to the farmer's market. We got to go to the fair and we got to talk to everybody. And we got to let them know, hey, there's a Green Party out here. We're just friendly neighbors. We don't
Yeah.
we're not going to be mad at you if you don't agree with everything we say, you know?
Yeah. So it kind of reminds me of how me, as like a Marxist-Leninist, and my Marxist-Leninist colleagues, we get into debates where or not to reach out to people from opposing sides, and we get into debates of how to basically organize. So literally, we should do like reaching out. Like, for example, other people reach out. Like, for example, like I throw this example a lot when it comes to proving this point, like how Bernie and Ron Paul worked with each other. They were on two opposing sides. They worked with each other to try to end the war on drugs, try to stop the Iraq War. They built a coalition with each other to actually get good things done. It's like Crystal and Sagar on Rising, where they basically talk about the things they agree on and basically debate on the things they disagree on. And it's all good and friendly.
Yeah, it stays respectful.
Yeah,
And you don't assume that, if
yeah,
you don't end the conversation with the other person completely agreeing with you, that it's a bad thing.
yeah.
That's what
It,
democracy is about, right? Is that we
yeah,
can work together without being all acting like it, because we're not going to agree with each
yeah,
other. We're
yeah.
not. We still got to work
We're,
together.
like, for example, like I might disagree with people who like are even to kind of the right of me, like basically social democrats on some things, but if you're actually going to do something we agree on, then good, we're going to work with each other on that. As well as this also reminds me of how like people like when it comes to my colleagues, like it's hard to really do organizing because red scare this, red scare BS like this, and red scare BS like over here, and other stuff that we're told that we were fed in the Cold War. As well as like next, this is what I recommend they do. How about instead of talking about the ideology of what you represent or mention it at all, how about basically talk about things that appeal to them? And you can also talk about your ideology, basically talk about your ideology to get your ideology out there. Saying, yeah, I'm a communist. And does that mean I can't actually fight for you? Does that mean I can't get the things that you actually want done? Like the things that you support or want done, like getting you guys healthcare, getting you all uh a jobs guarantee built, and also literally fixing our infrastructure and making sure our water is not poisoned and giving you guys affordable housing. Does that mean I won't fight for you? Yeah, basically appeal to them on issues that affect them. Like, that's the one thing. And I also wanted to ask you this question. So, can you give me examples uh in history about how workers movements, like for example in the United States, like how the impact of workers movements actually what they got like in law, like what things did they get in law, for example. Uh Wait, let me rephrase that question. Can you give me a historical example of how workers' movements actually work and get things done?
Well, I think that actually most decent things that have happened in the history of this whole country, and you can do say this around the world, have come from the bottom up. Okay, we'll put it that way. That's where the workers are at, right? I mean, that's where the energy to end slavery came from. That's where the
Yeah,
energy for women's right to equality and to vote came from. It wasn't this. None of these things were top down. The energy for the 8-hour day, for weekends, for Medicare, Medicaid, for Social Security. These came from number one. These came from the socialist parties, right?
yeah,
And that's how you think about what happened in the last kind of revolutionary times in American history. We're already in, I would say, a revolutionary time. And that's one thing we have to understand, is that in revolutionary times, things can change very quickly, right? Ideas and movements that looked like they were irrelevant one day
Hmm.
become very quickly central to the conversation. You know, I
Yeah.
think of the I think of the concept of the Green New Deal, okay, which the
Hmm.
Green Party's been running on for almost 15 years. Okay, it's now a very small handful of Democrats have mentioned it, and they've proposed very watered down versions of it. But
Yeah.
Green Party invented that, right? This is where the innovation comes from. The innovation, you know where innovation comes from? It comes from the brains of people. Who has more brains? The workers have more brains because we have more of us, right? So it just
Yeah.
makes sense that most innovation in the human species is coming from the working class because we have more brains, right? And
Yeah.
and so that's why the working class is the innovative class. We've told all the time that the entrepreneur is the innovator. That,
Yeah.
that's BS. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just
We're told that billionaire, like, oh, that these billionaires and millionaires make jobs and stuff like that. Well, that's not even true. And also saying though, oh, they worked hard for that money. No, they didn't. They got it from their workers by exploiting them. That's what they did it.
right. I
Like,
mean, they're paying their workers less than what they're getting out of them, or they don't employ them.
like for example, under capitalism, they're paying their workers less than what is worth their own labor, really. Yeah. Where
That's what profit is. Profit is theft.
yeah. As well as like, for example, it reminds me of like also, for example, in Cuba, where Fidel, Che Guevara, and others were able to get the masses, as well as Mao Zedong, where they were able to get the masses on their side to basically for example, in China with Mao Zedong, where he was able to fight back off the Japanese and beat the nationalists of China and established the People's Republic of China in 1949. And for example, in the Cuban Revolution, they were able to overthrow a fascist regime that was backed by the United States with the masses, with the workers, with the people by appealing to them, getting them riled up to actually overthrow their horrible government. And like what we're seeing, like for example, in Chile, where they actually got things done, where their protests were able to get them to actually have a vote to change their old constitution from an evil American-backed dictator like Augusto Pinochet, where basically it's been holding the country back. And so I also wanted to ask you on how do you think, what is your advice for people around like the world or basically in like the North American hemisphere when it comes to basically trying to organize people who are in their countries basically or in basically their neighborhoods?
In what communities again?
Oh, their neighborhoods or like around the world in their neighborhoods.
Well, I don't. Number one, I think that many of those communities are better at it than we are. So
Yeah.
number one, I don't want to go. Oh, here I'm a white guy in America telling these folks how to
Yeah.
because they're
Oh,
usually doing a better job than we are. Number
like,
one,
I mean, like recommendations, like
right.
what kind of things that you recommend, or like what things do you recommend for people who? Oh wait, how about this? What things do you recommend for people in first world countries? Is that an easier one?
Well, I mean, I think number one, we do need to think internationally.
Yeah,
We need, we need to, I mean, act. We need to act locally, right? We need
yeah,
to, we need to talk with our neighbors. We need to make our neighbors aware that we are socialists in their that live in their neighborhood. And we're good people. We're just good neighbors, right? We
yeah,
have we have some different ideas about how we could make our society more equitable, to have a lot less poverty, right? And things like this, right? And to be more sustainable. And number one, we have to make them aware that, and we need to give them that choice. If we're not out there, doing that, then we're failing. Failure is not losing elections. Failure is failure to get out there and run, right? Is to get out there and identify yourself to your neighbors as someone that's advocating for these things. And that is the same wherever you stay, wherever you're at. There's places where it's a lot more dangerous than here, right?
Yeah.
So, we are brainwashed in this poor country to think that there's nothing that we can do, right? They are
Yeah.
the owner class has really got us workers, bamboozled into thinking that there's nothing we can do. But I think that, as this capitalist economy, continues to fail us. I mean, capital fails us. We are
Yeah.
we are right now the second most unequal nation in the world. Only the
Yeah.
Russian Federation is more unequal, and we probably will surpass them soon. And we
Yeah.
only become more and more unequal. This is not a sustainable thing, and the capitalist class won't self-correct, okay? Because
Yeah.
the system is not broken. The system is working exactly as designed, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to work exactly as designed. Things are going to become worse and worse, and become more revolutionary. And we have to be the ones that are giving our neighbors another choice when they come to the very real realization that the choice between Democrats and Republicans is a choice for the status quo, which is a choice for more and more inequality, more and more instability, and more unsustainability in the ecological and economic sphere, right? And so we need to just be, like, we keep saying, patient, persistent, and we need to be forgiving of each other for, when, sometimes we fight each other, and we just, because we're not pure enough. And it's just like, none of us meet all the purity, goals, and we just
Yeah.
have to, we're all working on working on ourselves to be, more inclusive and more loving and more forgiving, and please just, embrace your brother and forgive him and her, your sister, for her, for her failures. I mean, we are all workers. We are all struggling, and honor every volunteer hour that your working brother and sister next to you can give.
Yeah.
And go, hey, you're not trying as hard as me. There's something wrong with you. Well, you don't know everything that's going on in that person's life. Honor what they can give.
So, what do you recommend to people who are interested in joining their local Green Party?
Well, uh, usually a short internet search will find your closest Green Party. Here in Missouri, we have a number of chapters in different cities in Missouri. We have our own web presence. We have our website. You can sign up online. We certainly encourage you to do so. If you want to be more passive, you can just donate to us online. Because we will put any donations that you give us to good hard work. We are a good core group of volunteers, and we always need more help. If you are someone that's in the Missouri area, then please seek out the Green Party. We're at mogreens.org or greenskc.org. And we've got a lot of resources there online, and you can catch us on YouTube. We got our own YouTube channel. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on Twitter. We've got a social media team that's putting out lots of great messaging all the time. If you want to find out what the kind of things we think about and talk about, our meetings are open to the public. We're not we're not hiding anything from anything. Like you said, everybody knows everything we're doing. The bosses are, they own this, this media that we're talking on. So, come on out,
Yeah. as well as like I also want to ask this, like, what are your thoughts? So, can you give me a little bit of insight about like the Green Party? Does it like when it comes to like is it kind like is the internal ways like democratic for people to actually like pick like chairs for like a local chapter of the Green Party?
Well, oh yes, we are a radical democratic
Mm,
organization. In other
okay.
words, there's no bosses in the Green Party. I'm an elected, I'm the outreach coordinator for the local chapter. Okay,
Hmm.
but that doesn't make me one iota over somebody else. Okay,
Hmm.
nobody gives anybody an order in the Green Party. Everybody volunteers to do exactly what they want to do. There's lots of stuff to do. You can join, there's different work groups if you're interested in social media, if you're interested in recruitment, if you're interested in, data processing. We got back of the house, we got front of the house. If you want to run for office, you want to, we've got lots of work groups. Or if you yourself have an idea yourself, then we're going to support you. It's like, okay, that's what you
Hmm.
want to do. Here's some other people that are also kind of doing stuff like that, because
Yeah.
ultimately you need to find your comrades, right, that want to
Yeah.
do something like you. And because that becomes very empowering, right? Because we're about empowering people, to find their comrades to do the work that they're interested in doing and that they're good at. Because all of us have skills, right? And we're very differently skilled. And we need every one of those skills, everything that a worker knows how to do. The Green Party needs done. Okay. So
Yeah.
you and you will be an absolute equal, and you can run. We want you to be a leader. We are what we call a leader full organization, right? Everybody is a leader. That doesn't mean that you have to talk. You can be quiet. You can talk, but we make sure that everybody gets the opportunity. In meetings, we have what we call rounds. When we're making decisions, we go around and everybody gets a chance to speak. And you can go past, I don't want to say anything about this, but everybody gets to speak, right? And everybody
Yeah.
gets an equal vote. And we work towards consensus, right? We don't just vote down the minority, right? We go, well, let's
Yeah.
see if we can find a way to get the minority on this issue to come along. Let's listen to them. What are their concerns? How do we work this out? So
Yeah.
that's how the Green Party works. And I think that it's one thing that we find is that Americans, unfortunately, in most of we've been socialized in fascist organizations called corporate workplaces, right? For-profit
Yeah.
workplaces, in which you have a slave master, basically, that has all the power in that place, and everybody
Yeah.
else just does what they're told. And we're not really socialized to work in equal teams, right? And so
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little bit of a cultural learning to go, nobody's going to tell you what to do here.
Hmm.
Nobody's your boss. Everybody's your equal. But when you kind of when you get it, you're like, oh, this works a lot better. I like this a lot better. This is
Hmm.
this, and I can be myself, and I can be my idiosyncratic self, and nobody's going to say stop it.
Yeah. It reminds me of how like democratic centralism works within like a party. So basically, where they basically have a debate over something in their platform internally, they all vote on it, and basically discussion and disagreement is welcome in the party, and it all works democratically, and everybody is democratically elected. Where with that, uh, with that, if you can't basically go against like what your party says in the public, but they are not going to basically condemn you for what you say in the public. They're just going to basically have to like warn you that like no, this is how the party is going to go. Just debate over the certain issue or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's like any Marxist Leninists watching this right now. Okay. So can you tell me where to basically find where to basically find a what was it, a local chapter of the Green Party in like any certain state in the United States.
You can go to GP, G is in Greg, P is in Paul.org.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the National Green Party site, gp.org. And
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be links to every state on there. And then, because, we have from Missouri, we have representatives at the national level, right? Because even, and, on their website, they can get you links to our website. So anybody can go to gp.org and find out where the greens are near you. And there's greens in every state in the union, and
Yeah.
there's greens in almost every country, in over 100 countries. So wherever you're at, you can find the green movement. And we are always wanting to set up. If there's not a green near you, then we want you to start a chapter, okay, in your area, and we will give you resources, and you will be given a seat on the coordinating committee for the state, right? If you start a
Yeah.
chapter in a city in Missouri that doesn't currently have a chapter, then you are going to have an equal seat on the state coordinating committee, and we're going to welcome you to do that. You basically, we have a minimum. If you just need to get 5 people. That's if you can get 5 people in your area, then you're going to charter a chapter, and we're going to give you, and we have a lot of resources to help you grow that chapter. We have a database of contacts from Missouri that we've been building for years, and we can give you a list of people within 30 miles of you, 50 miles of you, that very likely might want to join you, right? That they've been sitting out there by themselves, and they will be very excited to find out that they have some comrades, because they might be in a very unfriendly place, right? And they may be very shy about speaking out. But if they can find 5, 10, 15 comrades that they can work with, then they'll come out of the woodwork. There's more of us out there than we think.
Yeah.
We just have to step forward, and so please do.
Hmm. It reminds me of what basically Chairman Mao Zedong said in a quote. He said, "Politics is war without bloodshed." That's what he means by politics, because politics is a war. It's a war without bloodshed, really. That's what politics really is.
Right. Well, I
So,
mean, it's the off ramp to
mhm.
solving problems before the bloodshed. You
Yeah.
hope if we fail, it's certain that it will turn into bloodshed. And politics is not a spectator sport. We are socialized in this country that politics is a spectator sport that we basically tune into about every 4 years, right, for a presidential election. Politics is
Mhm.
a day-to-day engagement with your community, right? And
Yeah.
that's and if you don't have that in your life, I think that you're missing an essential component of your life. And I think Americans aren't happy people. We're not happy people, right? We are having record suicide rates. We actually, right now, for the last few years, have had a shrinking life expectancy in this country.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not we're addicted to substances to turn our brains off. We're addicted to the internet, but just
Yeah.
junk. And if you don't have a way in your life in which you're working with comrades to make the world a better place, then there's a big hole in your life. And the Green Party is offering a, a, a way to fill that hole. And a way, because if you recognize that the world is in dire straits, that the ecological crisis is threatening all of us, right? And if you don't do something about it, that our children and grandchildren are all going to die in a Holocaust within the time frame of people that
Like,
are alive today.
mhm.
Okay. And if you're not, if you, number one, you got to recognize it. and then number two, you got to do something about it. Now,
Yeah.
I can live a happy life only because I am engaged, right? I'm trying to do what I can, right? And and thus I am have live a fulfilled life, and I'm inviting everybody to a fulfilled life by getting engaged. If it's not the Green Party, find out what it is, right? But
Yeah.
you're welcome in the Green Party.
Thank you. Um, so is that all the time we have left, Leonard? Let me see. Okay, we got 5 minutes before we wrap up. Mhm. Okay. Okay. So since we got literally little time left, all right. What? Oh yeah. Do you want any questions you want to ask me or no?
Well, I'm curious in West Virginia, which is right now a red state, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Conservative place. I'm from Missouri. That's also a red state, a conservative place.
Yeah.
You know, I'm curious. And I see lots of hope here. Okay, I'm curious to get your take there in West Virginia, which has a great labor history, right?
Yeah.
So,
Like
what's going on in West Virginia?
So in West Virginia, people are conservative. Yeah. But here, when I was a Bernie supporter in my middle school, I was able to get 50 people organized to get Bernie's message and spread it all out to a bunch of people in my middle school at the time. But now here in West Virginia, it's hard, basically because one, I remember somebody asked me this, do you know the people in West Virginia struggles? Yes. And I labeled what they struggle through. Being the epicenter of the opioid crisis. Two, what was it? Having poisoned water. Uh, what else? Basically us being treated like collateral damage and our government not giving a care about us at all. Like, really, West Virginia is not really a red state. That's what people need to know. West Virginia is not a red state, everybody. Let me repeat, West Virginia is not a red state. But yeah, uh, because literally we voted for Bernie in the primary overwhelmingly, but we voted for Trump overwhelmingly because they kind of had the same message. They kind of actually had the same message, really. The reason why they didn't vote for Hillary, war criminal Clinton, uh, is because what was she doing? She didn't do anything to appeal to them. She did nothing, like at all. Like Hillary Clinton sucks. Like as well as Joe Biden. Literally, I remember my dad voted Green for the first time because one, he wanted to help to get a new third party.
Told you that?
And,
I did, but I still don't want to take just anything. No.
uh, help get a new third party as well. Uh, as well as like, yeah, as well as he said the Democrats did not stand for anything. But yeah,
They stand for their campaign contributors.
yeah.
That's what we get. That's what we get from the corporate parties.
So are we still live or are we not anymore? I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh, so any closing statements you want to that you have before we go?
I just want to thank you for doing the work you're doing. It's kind of exciting, getting this off the ground. I wish you a lot of success. I'm very excited to hear what happens with you running as a green there in West Virginia. That's very exciting. We're working here in Missouri. It's exciting to talk to. It's always exciting to talk to folks around the country that are plugging away at this. It seems like that we're just spinning our wheels sometimes, but at a certain point, we're going to hit pay dirt, and it's just this going to take off. Okay, so don't give up. Keep plugging away. Stay optimistic. Be patient, and be ready, because when the revolution comes, and we're talking about a political revolution that we've been preparing for a long time. We're going to be at the forefront of it. We're going to be shoulder to shoulder with a lot of folks that are going to join all of a sudden, and we need to welcome them and not be like, okay, you're Johnny come latelys, you follow us. We need to bring them up to the front rank with us, and go arm in arm to take our tax dollars to work for our communities, and that's ultimately what we're angling for.
Yeah. So thank so I'm gonna give a message to the audience. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to KRT Media Collective, and we'll see you next time.